get started. All right. Thank you, everybody. This is our very, very first Pantheon Music Academy virtual workshop with so many more to come. I'll be your facilitator and host. My name is Chris. And with us today, we have Patrick, aka Kindrid. Kindrid has been producing music for the last 3 years, and with that has proven himself and his tracks. You'll see them on Mau5trap Records. He's going to be going over composition, arrangement, and structure with us today. And last but not least, Kindred has actually worked with a couple of other folks. We don't know if they actually might be in this room, but you've worked.
One of them is.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Very, very cool. And so, you know, we can get started whenever you'd like, but a little bit of a background about yourself, Kindred, beforehand. Where are you based out of? You know, tell us a little bit more about you.
Okay. I'm from Houston. Born here, not actually raised here for most of my life, but still here. I have a musical background of about 15, 16 years. Been playing piano since I was like 3 years old. Yeah, I don't know.
Cool. And now you're here.
Yep.
All right, great. So first, play the track for us in its
entirety, sure.
And that way we can get an idea of what exactly we're in store for.
Sweet. So this is Dynamia. It came out on Mau5trap like 6 months ago.
Patrick, pause for just a second. Your audio, it sounds actually really muted, especially during the drop. Does everybody else hear that? Or is that just me?
Let me check something.
Yeah, on the bottom left-hand side, you're gonna see the little mute option, or like it's gonna be like the little microphone icon, and then there's gonna be a little caret right next to it. If you click on the caret, you can designate where you want the application to capture the audio from. You might just
I mean, I'm having it external. Hold on, let me. Is that better?
It still sounds a little muffled. That's a drop. That's good. That's good. That'll do. The drop is too strong. Yeah, so your drops sound like they sound phenomenal, but they sound kind of
Sorry.
your audio
Yeah.
sounds muted during the drops. Sounds like you almost have like a gate or some type of compression on it.
That's odd. Just the drop.
Big super fan of the track. I would love to hear it in its full capacity. So before we just move forward, let's just take a couple seconds just to make sure on the bottom left-hand side for me, in between mute or unmute, and it might say start or stop video.
Yep.
There's a little caret right next to the microphone. If you click on
Yeah.
that caret, let's point it to a different, it might even be to your mixer or just to a different audio capture.
Let me try something.
Okay.
It might like freak out at me. I don't know. Okay.
Oh my God, that's it. That was
Yep.
it. That was it.
Let me increase this buffer size by like a lot.
That's perfect.
Hold on. Let me just like make sure this is not being stupid.
Okay, it sounded great. Whatever you just did right now sounded awesome. Because we could actually fully hear
There
it.
we go.
There it is.
There we go. Now it's not being dumb. Yeah,
All right,
so
boy. You did it.
I was using the drivers for my audio interface, and most softwares don't support them because they're ASIO drivers, and that was the problem. So I just switched to the Windows driver.
Great, so we're on board. Let's hear the drop, and then we can kind of get started on how you put this track together.
Sure, I'll do the second one. Yeah. Quick question. If I turn this down, does it make it quieter?
Yes, the volume did decrease just now.
Noted. Let me do this. There we go. Okay. Phone, please. All right. So the topic that I wanted to go over is that a lot of times people will send me music, like either like while I'm streaming or on Discord or on Instagram or whatever the hell, and be like, yeah, I just like can't get this mix. And the problem usually is not the mix, it's the composition. So if we go to this drop, so the main thing that makes this drop so easy to mix is that everything has its own space. So here are the saws, right? These are the saws. When the saws are happening, the saws are like really up front. Mm-hmm. Nothing else is happening except the kick. Right? Mm-hmm. Saws. And then the space. And then this space. And they all have their own little space. But if I had like this bass happening at the same time as this one, it's like kind of a mess. Mm. So very fundamental part of mixing is composing. And I think I did a very good job of that in this track with this drop. So you can still have things happening on top of each other. It's not like you have like one thing happening at the same time, right? So I have like these saws. Let me just mute all the basses. I have these saws. Hold on, wait. Those are inside of the basses, aren't they? Okay. So this one, and this one. Nope, not that one. This one. This little riser thing. I have it sitting pretty far back. I have it at -9, and then I think this whole group is at like -3. Yeah, -3 or something. These saws by themselves are at -6, which is 3, or actually -11, which is technically 3 decibels louder. So this is where another thing comes in handy. There's something called gain staging that I think is extremely important. So let's say this is the sound we have, right? Mm-hmm. By itself. This is serum, by the way. So if you see this little level thing up here, this is super important. Mm-hmm. I did not gain stage this correctly. It's not hitting the top. So I turn this up. There, it just hit red. Now you pull it back a little bit. So once it hits red, that means it's at 0. And now you can check this little thing in Ableton, right? In Ableton, it's right here, but in like other DAWs, it's in other places. But this little thing tells you how loud it is. So that's super close to 0. So now I set that into this reverb at 0. And then it reverbs it. Still pretty close to 0. Put on this EQ. Still pretty close to 0, -1. So now this is actually going to be really near -9 instead of whatever it was before, which was like here. Which, if you check here, is -16. It's 7 decibels of difference. So gain staging is very important when it comes to mixing because you can use your eyes as well as your ears. That being said, I have this in the front. I think these are like actually where they're supposed to be. Nope, these are at -12. Go me. But I think that might have been on purpose. Yep, so why I did that is if you add these two together. Oh, come on. 1 second, it's freaking out. Okay. You add these two together. So I have these chords and I have this bass under it because this doesn't fill out all the range. Once you go into this, it's coming in at about 0 or enough. And then I'm running it into 2 saturators, which is going to make it louder, right? It's a saturator. It adds more and makes it louder.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the reason for that. And I still didn't gain stage it completely properly, but gain staging can help a lot with your mixing, and I think it would have been a lot easier for me to mix it if I had properly gain staged this. So my point here is that, my original point is that I have these saws going on, but I also have this thing on top of it. So you can have giant front things and also things that are sitting in the back, like this little riser thingy. Right. But you don't want to have 2 conflicting elements happening on top of each other, like unless it's 100% on purpose. So like I said, like having these 2 happening at the same time. Kind of a mess. But an example of where that's okay is these saws, right? They're all doing the same thing. They have the same motion. This bass is doing this. And this bass is doing this. What 2 completely different things. If you layer it, it's going to be a mess. This is called layering. Pretty simple. This is the sound I started out with, these saws. I thought it was too brittle. What did I add? Hold on. I added more saws in the center. I added more saws out wide. I added, I think, squares, and then strings. So there's a reason for doing every single one of these things. So this, like, I could take this, right? And this is like 2 layers of saws on top of each other with 16 unison and like mostly toward the top, and there's like an OTT on it. And like, you'd be like, oh yeah, that's a good sounding saw if you like compress the hell out of it and saturated it and whatever. I don't do that. What I do is I say, this has, you can sort of see it in like spectrums and EQs and stuff, but you really want to use your ears for this kind of thing. So this has a lot of top end. Come on. There we go. So this has a lot more top end than the rest of these. And this low end sounds pretty brittle to me. And also it's pretty wide. So what I did at first is I added this, which is completely in the center. It's literally just 1 saw. And then you have these 2. Sounds pretty good. I think it could use more. So I added more wide saws because I didn't think it was wide enough. And then it's pretty good. I thought it didn't have enough harmonic variance, so I added some squares. And then I thought it sounded too digital, so I added some strings, and I learned this trick from Millennium. Not that I know him, but I watched a video on it. And that sounds pretty good. And then you have some processing, you have a little bit of OTT. Brings up the bottom a little bit, and then a small EQ. Just to like get rid of the low end. Because that low end is kind of a mess now that you have all that wide stuff. Since I got rid of it, I have to add it back in. Because now it's not there. So I have this, which is just 3 different bass patches that do effectively the same thing as these saws. And then together, you have this. Yeah, rip CPU for real.
Yeah, that's a good point. Do you ever like freeze your tracks or do anything?
Yeah, well, I don't so much anymore because I have Ryzen 1700X, which has 8 cores.
Okay.
But I
it
used to.
Depends on what your rig is.
Yeah, if you need to, like, there's no problem. It's just kind of annoying. So, like, on my computer that I wrote this on, which is like a laptop from 5 years ago, I had all of these frozen. And I still had these frozen for when I dragged the project over to this computer. And then there's probably a few other things. Yeah. So yes.
Very cool.
And also, it helps when you're not using Windows drivers, because with audio interfaces, what it does is it offsets a little bit of the load on to the interface itself, and it's also optimized for this kind of thing. So yeah.
And so when you started creating this track, did you first start with the drop, or did you start with the kicks? Did you start with like an intro?
I think I did. You know what? You know what I did? So for this track, there's a student named Fox Hunt. You can look him up if you want. He's on Tasty and a couple other labels. He makes Complextro almost exclusively, and I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. Maybe I should make Complextro. And so I like sort of copied what he was doing. And also, I referenced deadmau5's Suckfest 9001. Not this part. Not this part. Right. Similar-ish.
So was that a reference track that you were using in order to kind of like?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, to write and to mix.
Okay.
Yeah.
How often do you use reference tracks? Is it constantly or consistently? Does it depend on like your creativity?
I try to use them every time I'm done with a mix or I'm mastering. When it comes to writing, maybe on a quarter of the time, because like I'll like have an idea or something, and I'll be like, I don't know where to go with this, so I'll just like pull some inspiration or something. And the other inspiration for this track was a track called Sphere by Laszlo, and that was like the whole idea of like having this like constantly rising sort of building energy kind of thing. Not that I did it as well as him at all. Yeah. But yeah, reference tracks are a pretty common thing for me. I mean, like everyone has their inspirations, right? It's not like you can avoid them.
Yeah.
So I might as well embrace it.
Yeah, and honestly, like I think a lot of folks should know, especially with the type of quality of production that you're putting out, they should understand that there's absolutely no shame, and in fact, a lot more to gain by being able to like learn from your inspirations.
Yeah, I literally call it copying other people, because
that's
yeah.
It. Yeah. And there's really like, copy it in a way that you're taking the best elements that are personal to you, and then you're giving it a breath of its own.
Yeah. And I mean, it's not like, it's not like I'm like remaking the track.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, oh, I like this concept. I like this idea. So I'm going to make that idea again.
How did you differentiate from, keeping something original, quote unquote original, or personal to you versus flat out almost following their recipe or their formula?
That's a good question. Well, it was kind of easier with this track to do that than with other tracks, because I already knew I wanted to make Complextro, and I knew that Laszlo song was like a big inspiration for me. But like that Laszlo song had it's kind of trancy. It has like a lot of big chords the whole time. But I wanted it to be a little bit more like this. So like in finding two completely different inspirations and like trying to merge them into a thing, you kind of create something new.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough.
What was the name of this computer? I custom built it. The Ryzen 1700X.
Yeah, that's processor.
Yeah. CPU.
And then how much RAM do you have on that?
16 gigs.
16. Sounds about right.
Yeah. I could get 32. It would help, but I don't need it.
But 16 is nice.
Yeah, 16 is fine.
Yeah, pretty much anything that's like comes close to a gaming computer minus the video card, you could do perfectly well with. Yeah,
pretty much.
Very cool. And so you built the drop, and then where did you go from there? Did you immediately start working on the bridge? Did you go towards the intro? What came after
I went to the intro on this one.
Right. Just right before we go into the intro, guys, I do want to make a small subtle note. For those of us that are watching on the live stream, we're thrilled to have you guys as an idea moving forward. If you want to participate in any of our live streams, subscribe to pantheonmusicacademy.com. You can subscribe to our email list there, and you'll get your invitation. Our webinars are always going to be free. If you want to watch them at a later point, however, you will have access to these first 30 minutes directly from our YouTube channel. Separately, if you want to access to the entire course, we definitely do appreciate any membership that you guys do take alongside, that you guys join us and take part of our membership. So for the cost of a $5 cup of coffee, you'll be able to gain access not only to this video, but any previous videos that we've put out in the past. And so it gives you an idea of a giant music library of just information that you guys can turn to. Without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into the intro. Can you go ahead and take it away?
So for this intro, hold on, wait, I think I actually have the track here. It's either here. So I literally like copy pasted the structure of the intro. So if I drag this to the right spot, so the intro of this track sounds like this. Right, and I did this. Right, it's like the same thing, except I did it.
Okay. Well, I want to take a brief moment because it's like a lot of folks use reference tracks, and we'll model the beginning and middle drop, outro of the entire track based off of one song. But you use two.
Yes.
So you said, let me take an intro from one track, use that to draw inspiration from, and then you use the drop of a completely different track, and then you do inspiration from that one.
Yeah.
Awesome. I love it. Like Steve Jobs talks greatly about how important it is to shamelessly really like just to copy, adopt, and steal ideas from other sources and other forms of inspirations. Yep. And you definitely hit the nail on the head by staying at level of like flexibility between working with multiple tracks. Super awesome.
That's art. Okay. Yep. And then I was like, okay, I did the thing. Now how do I get from here to the drop? So I was like, okay, I'll do the dead mouse pluck thing. Right. Mm-hmm. So I just like slowly faded in the pluck. And that's just like the same progression-ish from the two drops. It's like a derivative of like the original one I had, mm-hmm. which I think was...
And what keys were you playing on that one?
Like what notes were they?
Yeah.
Or like what the key was in?
Mm-hmm.
So this is in... If I take the piano. So this is an E flat minor.
Okay. Do you like working in particular keys, or does it depend on your mood? Like,
I really like working in E flat minor and D minor because so in electronic music, it's like really important to have your sub sit in the right place. So like the sub sounds like this. Not my favorite sub, but like if I pull up an EQ. So this is at E flat, which is like 38 hertz. Okay. So if I in Pro Q3, this is an amazing plugin, by the way. If you don't have it, I would get it.
Thank you guys so much for joining and tuning into our channel. You can find us and any of our 30-minute video excerpts for free on YouTube. You're also more than welcome to join us directly on our live stream. Visit our website at pantheonmusicacademy.com, subscribe with your email address, and you'll get notices the moment that we go live on stream. If you weren't able to catch any of our past presentations simply because you missed them or you just didn't have the time, no worries. For just the cost of a $5 cup of coffee a month, you'll be able to gain access to our entire video library. How cool is that? Check us out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube.